The VW ID.4 was the brand's first ground-up EV. And while there are competitors with even more range, performance, and luxury, this does it for cheaper.
If you enjoy fun, detailed car content without fluff, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications.
For 2023, we see some notable changes with the ID.4. The biggest one is the addition of a standard model, which comes with less battery. This gives you a VW estimated 208 miles of range, which is far shy of the 280 that the EPA quotes for the rear-wheel drive Pro model that has the 82 kilowatt-hour battery.
Pro models also see peak charging rates go from 135 kilowatt to 170 this year.
The standard model will start $5,000 less than the rear-wheel drive Pro. For 2023, we also see standard automated parking cyclist detection. The larger touchscreen is standard, and we have a couple of other interior enhancements. But now let me acquaint you with the very creatively named trims. You have the aforementioned standard trim, then the S, and then you have the Pro label, which signifies the larger battery pack. Then it's going to be Pro S, which is what I have here in the all-wheel drive form, and then the Pro S Plus. Great one. Good job, guys. Silly naming aside, for just under $39,000, including destination and not including the federal tax benefit of $7,500, this undercuts even the Kia competition. And it still packs quite a few features like standard LED headlights, rain sensing windshield wipers, all of the active safety features, and proximity unlock and lock. Though one thing I should note, there is no frunk to be found on the ID.4. As with most other EV SUVs, you're really going to have to watch curbs in this thing because you only have 6 inches of ground clearance or 6.7 with all-wheel drive like my car here.
But at least you have standard parking sensors to prevent curb skirmishes. And if you want curb appeal, the S trim adds an illuminated VW badge and steering responsive headlights too. If you don't want to be blindsided by dealer markup, consider Royal on Eastside in Bloomington, Indiana, the friendly dealership that sells new cars at sticker, and let me test drive this ID.4. The staff is helpful and they have a diverse inventory too. If you're in the market, check them out.
Those 4x4 models also include a heated windshield. Even on the base model, you're going to have 19s. The S and S Plus will have 20-inch wheels. The S is also going to get a power rear tailgate along with an illuminated VW badge around back. And if you're prone to parking lot mishaps, the S Plus will come with a 360 view camera. And since it replaces the previous gradient package, this black plastic molding will become a silver plastic molding. While looks are all subjective, I find the ID.4 to have a sleek aesthetic that looks good in a blobbish kind of way. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. For 2023, VW has said that they've added more fabric to the interior and this stitching to the dashboard that as a whole does not make this feel upscale. And I'm not saying that it's a horrible place to be because it isn't. The big pros to this is that it's a minimalist layout with just a couple reasonably sized high resolution screens, a bunch of passenger space, good cubbies, and great comfort. However, at over $50,000 as equipped, this has a borderline embarrassing fit and finish. And it seems like VW went on a drunken rage and just removed every single physical button in here. And like even the hazard lights here are capacitive. And it's not like, you have feedback on any of these. The HVAC controls here don't glow up at night. You can on accident, trigger the buttons on the steering wheel. It's a two-step process if you want to roll down the rear windows. You have to make sure that you selected the rear windows before you can roll them down, although the advantage to this is that you're probably less likely to on accident roll down the rear window at a drive-thru. But overall, these capacitive controls just make it a more frustrating interior to work with.
Fortunately, the UI is starting to grow on me a little. This infotainment system carries the glorious moniker Discover Pro Max. For 2023, all have a 12-inch screen, nice graphics, and great configurability with standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, navigation, and wireless charging. There are also neat features like automatic heated steering wheel and seats when the temperature dips below a certain level. However, there is big room for improvement with the convoluted settings dispersed throughout the UI, embedded HVAC controls, and occasional lagginess.
I do actually appreciate the small 5-inch driver display because it shows me exactly what I need and it moves with the steering wheel like a Nissan 350Z. And one area where I think their innovation actually isn't frustrating is the little drive selector. It's compact, easy to use, has nice feedback. I do wish though that it was like a metal or something, not gloss black plastic, which unfortunately does wrap the places that you would touch the most.
And this form over function approach to the controls is the biggest downside to the ID.4 in my opinion. It's the automotive equivalent of the person who has built their entire personality around being a Sagittarius. It's like the ID.4 designers tried to make the cabin scream future just because it's an EV. And it seems like that took a little out of the quality budget too. At least features are plentiful. You get ambient lighting, the ID light that helps notify you of various things and shows charging status, along with cloth heated front seats with leatherette bolsters, all on the base trim. But the S adds lumbar adjustment, leatherette seating, a heated steering wheel, panoramic glass roof, and massaging front seats. The Pro S Plus gives you a vaguely labeled premium sound system, something I could live without as the 7 speakers of my tester are adequate and the center channel speaker gives it a respectable surround sound feel. Ventilated seats are not an option, but I can forgive that because these are much more comfortable than what's in the Tiguan or Atlas. They're supportive and plush with inoffensive bolstering that still makes this feel more contoured to my body than most other VW seats.
And at 6'3", I have a very respectable amount of space and plenty of adjustments here for the seat. Unfortunately, none of them will really have good soft touch rest points for your knees or your outboard elbow. The center console here is at least plush and does offer a respectable amount of storage,
as does the rest of the interior with cubbies galore.
Sitting behind myself in a comfortable position, I have just enough space to be happy here in the ID.4. My head is grazing the roof here. The VW Tiguan has a lot more space in the back seat than this. Actually, even a VW Taos has more back seat space. Though I would say the soft material makes these seats a little bit more comfortable. You also have standard rear vents and USB-C ports back here. If you go up to the Plus, then you're going to have tri-zone automatic climate control with your own control unit. You still kind of have the funky looks continuing back here. I would advocate for maybe a little bit more space. That way you can fit, a reverse-facing child seat back here easier. In terms of weird things, you do have an odd pocket here and the door handles. So they have an electronic release. You notice this on the outside as you're not really pulling on anything. But on the inside, you have the manual release built in. So this means, yes, you can pull the handle all the way to open it. It also opens just fine with a half press. And it also does have that solid VW door closing experience. The cargo area of the VW ID.4 is notably smaller than the Tiguan, and VW uses a nice multi-level system here that will allow for a flat load floor or a taller space. Plus, on the S trim, you have a nice pass-through. It's easy to use as well. While there's not a whole lot going on back here, there's much to discuss on the road.
While you can just hop into the ID.4 with the key and start driving, VW still tucks in a stop-start button if you want to access the accessory mode or shut off manually.
Since I'm a car reviewer who primarily drives gasoline vehicles, let's get the obligatory instant torque reaction out of the way. I'm making fun of myself, but it does actually get up to speed with haste. And that's because I have an all-wheel drive model. Here, I will have 295 horsepower from 2 electric motors. A more efficient, more powerful permanent magnet synchronous motor around back, and then a power boost from the asynchronous motor that's up front. You obviously lose that motor if you go with the rear drive model, which then makes 201 horsepower. Yes, if you're coming from a Tesla, this will probably be a little bit more pokey.
But I'd still label the dual motor setup as brisk with effortless acceleration, especially from low speeds. But let's see what the numbers say.
For this test, I have it in sport mode, traction control is in ESC Sport, and the AC is off. A lot of surge there at low speeds, definitely reduces thrust around 40, 45.
Leading us to a pretty middle of the road 6-second flat run to 60. Granted, I was at 78% charge, and that time comes from analyzing my footage frame by frame as my Draggy device caught a bug during the test. Car and driver got 5.4, VW quotes 5.8.
Once again, you have an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack in the Pro models. This is good for 280 miles of range, or as I have it here equipped with all-wheel drive, 255. It seems like from what others have reported, those ratings are pretty accurate, if maybe a little conservative.
These ranges are paired up with respectable peak charging rates of 140 kilowatt for the standard battery and that updated 170 for the Pro. The ID.4 holds impressive numbers but is bested by cars like the Kia EV6. However, those specs are almost as deceiving as a massive wooden horse. Real-world performance is never that good due to variables in battery level, charging stations, and temperature. So remember that when hearing things like the ID.4 can charge up to 89 miles of range in 10 minutes with a level 3 public charger. More realistically, a level 2 home unit will have this thing up to a full charge in about 7.5 to 11.5 hours. Installation for something like that should set you back around 1200.
At 65 miles per hour, there's a little bit of road noise. There's definitely perceivable wind noise. But compared to most other SUVs around this price point, I would call the ID.4 quiet. When it comes to handling, let's put it into our sport mode. What I'm actually pretty impressed by is the steering. It has a very nice weight to it, and it feels like it's giving me some feedback. It's predictable. I wouldn't call it particularly tight or anything, but it has a direct character to it. One thing I'd also like to know, I think that the steering conveys the weight of the vehicle pretty well, and I think the controlled body roll from having, very low center of gravity helped this react to your inputs in a timely manner. I think this is a very well-tuned setup. And yes, this does have rear drum brakes. The brake pedal itself does have a somewhat mushy feel there at the top, but honestly, I think that just allows for smoother driving more than anything else, as if you want to stop on time, you can.
You can also flick it into the regenerative braking mode on the shifter, and that will allow for mostly one-pedal driving. That regenerative function explains why disc isn't necessary around back in this application. And since drums require less maintenance, I'm happy, although if you like bitey brakes, this is not that.
And if you put it into comfort mode, the steering noticeably lightens up. The throttle is still very eager, and now it feels even easier to drive. When it comes to comfort, the ID.4 rides the middle ground between what I would consider a firm or soft ride. With independent suspension all around, it feels controlled. Nothing really bothers it too much, even through mid-corner, although whenever you hit bumps, there's a little bit more noise than I would really prefer.
The hollow noises that come with hitting imperfections doesn't leave it feeling like 50 grand. For the money, I'd consider this comfortable enough, but I would have liked to see a more forgiving disposition. But at least it takes corners well, no matter the surface.
And I am kind of happy that this takes a more simple approach to the suspension and skips at things like adaptive dampening.
But that doesn't mean these haven't had their fair share of issues. Some people reported a spontaneous stalling that was fixed by recall. The parking camera system also lagged so bad to warrant another recall, and I saw a report of the battery cooling pump failing. Teething issues are typical, but I'm most concerned on the large number of random software bugs that people are also facing. While most aren't serious, it's something that could become a larger nuisance as the car ages. And since it's an EV, we also need to talk battery. It's a lithium-ion unit here, and it comes with an 8-year, 100,000 mile warranty. Time is going to have to tell on how long that that will last, as age and charge cycles are the biggest factor of battery degradation. Not just miles, as there have actually been many Teslas to crack 200,000 on a stock one. Another glimmer of hope is that battery replacement costs are starting to go down.
The visibility in here, as you would expect with an EV, is pretty good. There is still a pretty healthy blind spot back there, but you do have blind spot monitoring as standard. And pedestrians and cyclists can also rest assured that you're not going to hit them, because for 2023, the autonomous braking system is supposed to detect them a little bit easier, and this was already a pretty good setup. Includes adaptive cruise, lane assist as well, and that's going to come on every single ID.4.
And that highlights the biggest pros to the ID.4. It comes with great features on every model. It also has comfy seats, a controlled ride, powerful enough performance, solid range, and a funky personality filled with a practical interior. Add all of this with the new base trim's price, the better standard features, materials, and charge rate, and it's one step closer to being the EV SUV to beat. But I think in its noble quest to oppose traditional design and embrace the electric personality, it got caught up in trying to woo fans of Tesla and lost broad appeal as a result. This tech-forward, mid-quality approach can work well, but here it can come off unintuitive and cheap. But hey, for many, saving money is more important than excessive speed, interior refinement, and slightly lower blood pressure. If that's you, this should be an attractive option, and after driving it, I have no problem recommending it to prospective EV buyers. But for traditional crossover folks, the ID.4 is still a hard sell. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like to help me show up the YouTube algorithm. Want more? Subscribe and hit the bell. And thank you to my loyal patrons. I'll catch you in the next one.